It's the Sod Pod, brought to you by Grassland Agro. The Sod Pod. Hello, and welcome to the Sod Pod. We're in season 2. This is episode 8. We're joined by Andrew Mackey, award-winning farmer from New Zealand. He's a huge social media influencer or educator, depending on how people like to interpret that term. YouTube, over 23,000 subscribers, in excess of 5 million views. Instagram, 6,500 followers. The once-a-day farmer. Andrew, thanks for joining us. How are you?
No worries. No, I'm going good.
What is going down in New Zealand? Actually, before you answer that, you've got the opening fixture in the Rugby World Cup, playing France, in France. Will you get over to it?
Oh, geez, I'd love to, eh? Oh, I would love to, but it's a busy time of the year for us. So unfortunately, I probably won't be making that one. Be watching that one on TV.
I just want to put my next statement on record. I am going to the Rugby World Cup. I will be there for the Ireland-South Africa game. My wife thinks I won't be going, but now that this has gone out live, she will look awful if I don't make it. So I look forward to being there, Andrew, and you never know, we might get to meet up over it as well. What's happening anyway in New Zealand, Andy?
Geez, I'd say Ireland are probably the favourites for the World Cup, but everything.
Oh no, don't say that.
Don't jinx us.
No, well, we certainly won't be. You guys will be paying, we'll be higher on the odds than you guys, but everything's going pretty well down here in New Zealand. We have had a pretty wet summer for us, which is pretty uncanny. They say it was due to an underground volcano going off last year, I think, which is just, put a bit more moisture in the atmosphere, and we've been copping it. So you might have seen it on the news, but it has worked out well for us in the Waikato. We've been having a bit of a flyer of a season, which is cool, but almost at dry off. So I've got about another 2-3 weeks left to milk, and then that's it. We get a bit of a holiday.
Well earned.
I'd like to think so,
yeah. You're obviously from your YouTube name Once a Day, and that's something that's gaining a lot of traction in Ireland and interest. Were you always once a day, or what was the decision to go down the once a day route?
No. So we have been. I can't remember exactly how many years ago. I've been back. This is my 5th season back on the farm. So before this, I worked on a dairy farm over in the UK, up the north there by Scotland, and then I did a harvest in America. And then I worked on a few sheep and beef farms over here in New Zealand before I went back home. But Dad probably switched to once a day maybe 8 to 10 years ago. He started going once a day after Christmas. So after mating was done, then he would switch the cows over. And then probably about 6 or 7 seasons ago, he switched to full season once a day. And it was because our sort of summers were getting a little bit drier. They were getting harder. And he just made the switch. He wasn't getting any younger either. So it's reduced his workload, especially during calving time in the afternoon, not having to milk and collect calves and colostrums and as such. So he did it for his longevity, I guess. And it's worked out well. We've sort of got a system that works for us.
Brilliant. There's probably a lot of talk about 10 and 7 and stuff like that in Ireland at the moment, which is kind of, I suppose, a hybrid of the once a day system. But you talked about the summers getting harder. That's predominantly due to drought in the Waikato.
Yes, we get very hard summers like not this season, but last season. I think we had 2 rainfall events in 5 months, and it was pretty brown. Which is unreal. That was our driest year, but usually we can. It's not uncommon to go without rain for a couple of months.
Oh.
Yeah, it's mad, Andrew, when you're looking at your YouTubes, and you think that we have a drought over here in Ireland in the summer, and then you look at some of your YouTube videos, and it's just a completely different color. It just looks so burnt up and so dry. We can't really complain over here when we compare it to your system.
No, it gets pretty dusty and brown, that's for sure. And you see a bit of, well, once you get a bit of rain, it starts to green up, and it's all right once you start getting it again. But yeah, it's pretty hard going when you don't know when it's coming. They always forecast rain about 10 days out just to keep the farmers happy, and then it never comes. So yeah, it is hard, but yeah, I don't know. We managed to get through it. We've changed a few things here and there to suit it. So, or not to suit it, but yeah, just a few levers to pull if it does happen.
Yeah.
And Waikato, Andrew, is the north of New Zealand. I suppose my very poor version of geography would be it's in the Northern Ireland, and we have the Southern Island as well in New Zealand. Is there much of a variance between the two sides of New Zealand, or from a weather and climate point of view?
Yeah, I'd say we probably look a lot like you guys, like island-wise. We're or especially in the Waikato, we're sort of flat to rolling. Whereas if you're down in sort of the South Island, it's more like the Scottish Highlands, big mountains. They get a lot of snow down there at certain times of the year, whereas we don't. It's a lot warmer up north here, which is nice. We can grow quite a bit of grass through the winter, which certainly helps.
Savage, yeah.
Yeah. And would you be grass measuring the whole time, Andy?
Oh, I don't measure at all, to be honest. I probably should, but I don't.
Yeah. But you'd be managing.
What's that? Sorry.
You're always managing. When we see in the videos, you're always setting up breaks, and you're always, you're utilizing grass, even though you're not necessarily measuring it.
Nah. You sort of get an eye for it after a while, and you sort of know how much to give them or whatever. So yeah, I tend to try and give the cows about a hectare, or my herd about a hectare, in the morning and at night. So yeah, you sort of just, I don't know, you get in a routine and but it's, well, getting back to that drought, I'll just put a quick mention. It's not uncommon for us to grow more through our winter than we do in the summer, which is pretty unreal, isn't it?
That's crazy.
Yeah,
that is crazy.
Yeah, it is.
And you can keep the cows out then all year round, basically, though, as an advantage of that.
Yep. There's not many. Actually, I don't know of any cow. Like, there would be no cubicle sheds in the Waikato. Not that I know of. There might be. It is getting quite popular. Like composting barns with wood chip. Especially for people that winter milk, because we get a premium over here if you milk through the winter. Of a couple of dollars more, although your running costs are a little bit higher. They sort of need infrastructure, and those wintering barns or composting barns, I should call them, serve a pretty good purpose for that.
Andrew, like you're calving massive amounts of cows outside. Like how do you manage that?
Yeah, good question. So we tend to have about a calving window of, I'd like to say 10 weeks, and I'd like to bring it down to about 9. So for us, we are going to calve down this coming calving or next season 300 in about 9 weeks, or 9 to 10 weeks. So it's not too bad. We get about 10. We might average 10 a day, and then on a busy day there'd be 15. So me and Dad we get through it. So draft cows out in the morning and then in the afternoon, and I feed all the cows myself, and he sort of tends to milk the cows in the morning a little bit more while I start feeding calves. But yeah, it's not too bad. We get through it. It is a busy time of the year, but it's also interesting time of the year too.
Like here in Ireland, we try focus on the 6-week calving window. Often more of a hopeful aim than anything, but there's some farmers managing that 6 weeks so well to try and condense it down. But obviously we'd have the in-house system at that stage. It's not the open system to yourself, but it is some drain on time, energy and resources. It is a tough window on the community, isn't it?
Oh, definitely. To get those cows cycling and back in calve for that short amount of time, it's they say, well, we say here our industry averages, you really want about a 70% of your herd calving within that 6 weeks, or ideally you want 80%, close to that. But yeah, anywhere in the 70s is pretty good.
Yeah. Claire, you were going to say something there?
No, I was just going to go back to, I was talking about the drought before we moved on to calving. I was just going to wonder, with your grassland management, like, change then throughout the drought? Would you have to feed them any differently when the drought does set in? That's all.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Definitely. So I try and if we do have supplement through the summer, we'll make it, and then I try and carry that through to January is usually not too bad. February and March are our big months that we can go in a pretty big deficit. So I try and have enough feed on hand then to sort of get me out of it. And if not, then we can always buy more supplement in, which is a big cost. So whether that be silage or PK is readily available over here. It's pretty easy to get. But the prices do change with the rainfall, well, it seems. So yeah, it can get expensive, but sometimes it's your only option.
Okay.
And Andy, the way that we came across you was on YouTube, obviously, which is a big undertaking to put yourself out there and show maybe everything that's happening on your farm. What kind of spurred you into getting into YouTube in the first place?
Yeah, good question. So I'd seen a few people doing it from around the world, like Tom over in England and a few guys in the States, and it's always interesting seeing how other people farm. You might have nothing in common system-wise, but it's always interesting to see how somebody else does it. So when I got back, I told my wife, I was like, I might start a YouTube channel, and she was like, yeah, go for it. You've got nothing to lose. So I sort of wanted to do it. There were three things why I sort of wanted to do it. One was just to be like a good advocate for our dairy industry. Two was because it might open doors, which doors and when they might open, I wasn't quite sure. And if I could do it right, I could make a little bit of a side income from it. So those are sort of the three main reasons. And yeah, by no means feat is it easy. It's a lot of work, but it is cool. It is very rewarding at times too.
I can imagine, yeah, there must be an awful lot of editing. James spends a week editing this podcast, which we record flawlessly. And then managed to make a big deal out of it. So, but I think it's brilliant advertisement for the industry, in fairness.
Yes, yeah, it's pretty hard case actually. Like one of Dad's mate, he does a bit of work here. He's a builder, and he's also got a block down the road with where he grows maize on, and I think the plough turned up to his place this year, and an Irish fella stepped out and he's like, oh, I know who you are. And he's like, what? He's like, I've seen you on the videos. And yeah, it's quite a hard case at times.
Yeah, and there is a good few. I see that in some of your videos. You have the some Irish guys in driving tractors and making silage for you as well. So there's a lot of Irish in New Zealand as well.
Oh, there's heaps over here. Finches, which are our contractor, they'd employ probably 10 to 12 each year, and they have been since I was working for them when I left school in 2009. So yeah, there's a heap of Irish guys that have gone through there. I don't think they advertise, like it's all just word of mouth.
Yeah,
very good employers. But yeah, around New Zealand there's a lot of Irish people, and it's good work experience over here too. Like a lot of the gear, or a lot of these big contractors, they've got big new gear, which is nice to drive. Pretty cool scenery, and it's just a different country, different system. So it's a good experience all around.
I was admiring your scenery in your videos. Fabulous.
yeah, it's probably better down south, but yeah, it's nice up here. It's it's not too bad.
I was out for a beer there about 4 weeks ago, and there was three guys at the bar counter, a neighbour of mine and two other guys, John and Dean. And of the four of us, the three lads had all been in New Zealand at different times. You know, they're different age categories and all, but the way they spoke about New Zealand and the systems and the farm was unbelievable to hear. Like it's amazing, really. And Davy Corbett, that's part of our own outfit here. Davy done New Zealand as well. Like there's just so many people from Ireland have learned so much from New Zealand as well. It's brilliant just to bring some of these concepts back and see what can be utilised in Ireland as well. Like,
oh, it's awesome, and like that was the big thing I wanted to do. Like I could always come back to the farm at some point, and I think the big thing is you've got to go and travel. You've got to go and see other systems, because if you can bring one little thing back to your own that it might make better, it's good. And you got to get that life experience, and going to other countries certainly helps with that, I think.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You put out a video this morning, and well, yesterday, from our point of view in Ireland, would have been late last night, about 10 p.m. And this morning, from your own point of view, nitrogen restrictions, how much can I use? I suppose we're seeing a lot of change here and regulations in Europe, within Ireland. And what sort of pressure points or regulations are there in New Zealand at the moment?
Yeah, so it's a bit of a hot topic, I guess. Like, they did bring in a few nitrogen regulations. It might have been a couple of years ago. So I think it's called the 190 cap. So we're only allowed to use up to 190 kilos of nitrogen per hectare. All dairy farms. We don't even get close on our one. I think we use somewhere around about it depends on the year, but somewhere between 60 and about 100. So we've still got a long way to go. Emissions is becoming a little bit of a thing over here. I think we export probably 95% of our milk products that we produce in New Zealand, we export. So a lot of our customers and consumers, I guess, are wanting greener milk. So we've got to meet those needs. So that is definitely a talking point at the moment, and there's a little bit of uncertainty around that. So I think it is what it is, isn't it? I think everyone's going to be in the same boat soon.
Yeah.
Andy, you mentioned there that you're only at the maybe 60 to 100 kilos of nitrogen. Do you think that, like, you use a lot of chicory and stuff, and you use a lot of different kind of grazing systems? Do you think that's kind of helping to reduce that nitrogen?
Good point. Possibly. Chicory, like, we don't put any nitrogen on after planting, and that gets done in October, November, and that doesn't get replanted again till April, May. So it probably does. And I think going forward, like, Dad's always been quite a low input system, whereas I kind of want to stay in that system, but I do want to try and get a little bit more efficient too. So going forward, I think we should possibly use maybe a little bit more nitrogen, but just use it more frequently and lower amounts, just to try and get better results through the season if we are getting rainfall.
Yeah. Okay.
I hope that makes sense.
Yeah. That's perfect. That's perfect. And, like, just when we're on the topic about chicory, like, I just like to kind of have your own view on it and stuff, because I know it's massive over with you, and it's getting bigger and bigger in Ireland. There's maybe a little controversy around it, but like looking at your system and looking at your YouTube, like, you can see, like, the amount of grazings and stuff you get out of it. Like, they'd skin it completely bare, and you think that nothing's going to grow back, and somehow you still get 3 or 4 grazings out of it. Like, it's mad.
Yeah, it's unreal, eh? When you graze it hard down like that, you're like, what's going to grow back? But it does, and it comes away again. It's actually quite interesting, because I was in a research trial this summer. So there was myself and 4 other farmers that were very close to Te Awamutu, where I live, and they did a trial to see what would grow more, whether the chicory would or a grass paddock. And this season, because we've had so much rain, the grass paddock actually did better, and the chicory didn't yield quite as well as it should have, which was interesting. But out of those 5 farmers, we actually came to my place to have a look at mine, just on one of them, and we all had different reasons for growing it. So it was quite interesting in that aspect. And for us, it's sort of like a fairly safe summer crop. It can get tap roots of, say, down to 2 meters, so it does hang on a little bit longer than ryegrass does. And it's basically just a silage pit for us. So instead of having to feed out, which takes time and it costs money as well, we can just break feed chicory, and it's easy. You run the cows on, we set up the fences at the start, we go on about a 20 to 22 day round, you run them on, you run them off. It's easy. They eat it within 2 hours. You don't have to feed out, or if you might have to feed out a little bit too if it is dry, but it's it certainly helps top them up just a little bit.
Okay, great. It's very interesting.
Yeah, John, I have a question for you, because you do a huge amount of talk on white and red clover. You're starting to talk plantain and stuff like that as well. Chicory in Ireland, thoughts?
For me?
Yeah.
Well, we use it very differently, I suppose, the way that Andy described. So we use it kind of in a conventional grazing paddock. So we combine multi-species sward, so it'll be white and red clover, some decent perennial ryegrass, and then chicory and plantain. the plantain seems to be performing okay. That's persistency of maybe 3 years, and the chicory only kind of gets one grazing season, and then it kind of is out of the sward. Obviously, it has some advantages, whether it's anti-helminthics, wormer resistance, or holding on a little bit more in a drought or whatever. But in reality, it gets if you don't manage it like the way that they do in New Zealand and graze it intensively, if it goes to seed, it's fairly wide looking. It has a big blue flower, and it's impossible to make silage out of it. So I think like the grass and white clover is probably and red clover maybe, and a bit of plantain is probably as good as anything. But for Andy, I suppose, like, you know, ye are used to getting a drought now, so like most people in Ireland think that farmers in New Zealand just grow grass and that's 100% it. But you also have a second forage planned in the yard in maize.
Yeah. So maize is pretty popular here in the Waikato. It's a massive sort of cash crop, and one of the main reasons is that we probably average pasture grown probably somewhere about the 13 tonne mark for the season. So, and the average maize crop yield in the Waikato is 19. So you can see we're obviously doing better with that, but it's not unheard of where you can go 25 tonne plus with maize if you do it right as well. Got good soils, good nutrient base behind it. But then you can also stitch in an annual if you're going maize on maize, and you can get about another, if it's a warm winter, you can get anywhere from about 6 to 8 tonne of annual through the winter. So it just sort of stacks up when you could be getting a 30 tonne crop over, out of that paddock instead of 13.
Yeah, for sure. And it's obviously there for during the drought periods as well to feed as well.
Yeah.
conserve
I feed
that
it out all year, and it's great for putting condition on cows. Like once they calve, it's they get into it. It gets them back quite nicely.
Really high energy. And Andy, one of the things that I noticed from your videos that I thought was very interesting and how I started watching was the deferred grazing. Can you explain to now a friend of mine works in a seed company. He's not going to like this one, but we don't mind about that. But it is a wild concept.
Yes. So I did it a couple of years ago, and it's nothing new because it's what they used to do, I don't know, 50, 60, 70 years ago. They used to shut a paddock up for hay, let it go to seed, and then they'd bale it, and it'd come back quite nicely. But there was a few people doing it. I wanted to give it a go, so I shut the paddocks up. I did do a few things wrong, like I put a bit of nitrogen on when I shut it up, and I shouldn't have, to promote the clover growth, because that's what you want. So I shut it up, and then I fed it out in mid-January when we started going dry, and it was a pretty big bulky crop, but it's probably not the best sort of feed for milking cows. Like if you did have dry cows at that time of the year, it'd be perfect. The cows actually did eat it better than I thought, and once they had finished, there's a lot of seed head. Like I had guys from Dairy NZ out which is like a company over here, which is a free company. Well, we've got levies that go towards it with our milk. And they said that they estimated there would have been about 80 to 100 kilo seed drop. So it gets heavily laden with seed. Just the only bad thing is that there's a lot of weeds in there as well. A lot of weeds in the seed. So it definitely worked once the rains came. It looked awesome. It's just sort of, maybe the following years it just wasn't quite persistent. And I'm actually taking them out now. Well, I've actually just put them in maize, a couple of them, just because they were too weedy. I needed to sort that problem out. So going forward, I probably wouldn't do it again. But then maybe I didn't do it right either. So yeah.
Yeah, so it was class though to see, like when you were doing it, I was looking at the phone. I was like, oh no, don't put the cows in there, like, because dry them up nearly. But sure, listen, it can work. Like if it would work out, if you had a couple of dry cows or something, it would be ideal, like, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I think it'd be really good dry cow feed and like a real cheap way of getting your paddock back into a new grass. But yeah, you're right. When I I chased the cows on. Like, I was so hard up behind them because I was like, once they go in and look at it, they're going to be straight back out the gate. I didn't get panic. So yeah, I didn't really want to give them time to think about it.
Yeah. And Andy, what is you know, on your once a day system on grass and maybe maize and a little bit of PK, like what is kind of the annual production? What are the cows capable? Is it 350 kilos of solids or 370 or?
Yeah, so if we were getting that, I'd be pretty happy. But no, we're not quite that high. Last season, bear in mind we had our drought, we were 300. The season before 320. I think going forward, like we are a fairly low input system, I think we should be getting 350 plus. I'd love to push to 400 at some point. Still being once a day, I've just got to be able to do things right. Probably when I get more into share milking and I get to have more say and spend money where I want to, I think we could possibly do that though.
Yeah, and that's maybe one thing that is probably sometimes in Ireland we're not very good at, is that if you're maybe the son or daughter of the farm, that you just go there and you just work there without any kind of formal agreement or discussion. But you guys seem to have a good relationship with your old man, number one, but also kind of a clearly defined way of working, which I'm sure helps as well.
Yeah, so I'm pretty lucky. Me and Dad, we get along fine. Like, and he's very willing to let me try new things, and a lot of them have worked, which is awesome.
A lot of the ones you put on camera.
yeah, I put a few of them. Like we teat sealed the heifers last year for the first time ever. He didn't really want to. He thought it was I didn't really want to part with the money, but it's worked awesome. We've got the results from it. So. There are things like that, but yeah, he's very willing to let me try what I want to, which is good. If it wasn't quite like that, and it was his way or the highway, then we possibly might we might have had run-ins in the past, or But you've got to let young people come back and they want to they want to progress. So you've got to let them.
Definitely.
I guess it's quite they say inheritance over here is probably one of the biggest issues. Well, not inheritance, but passing the farm on, because we probably don't have the same sort of history as you guys do over there. If your farm's been in the family for 100 years, that's a long time. Whereas maybe some of your farming families in Ireland, they would have had it for way past that, I'm guessing. But it is probably one of the biggest issues over here, and yeah, people try and figure out a way around it pretty early on.
Yeah, definitely.
Most of the time it's got to be fair. Farms have got to be bought rather than handed down. So, yeah.
Tricky.
Yeah, you have to come up with a good bit of cash to try but like it seems like there's more. It seems like it's probably easier to get into farming over in New Zealand as well. Like that, you can go to a bank and they will say, okay.
That's like, it's so interesting. I talk to guys from the UK and Ireland that come out and they've stayed out here. And the one thing, like, that's pretty obvious is that there's just so much opportunity over here. If you want to own a farm, you put in the hard yards and you'll get there eventually.
Yeah.
Like there's farms for sale all the time. It's not a. You'll get there. You want to do it. You start managing, share milking, then look into farm ownership down the track. But yeah, it's definitely doable.
Yeah, there's a journey you could travel there that for anyone, and that's probably why I wonder, like, a lot of the, as you said, the people that go over to New Zealand actually stay in New Zealand. They get bitten by the bug, and they often tell stories about the box of beers if they mess up. I haven't seen you or your dad do that yet, but they say that if you mess something up, you have to buy a box of beers. That's another key. I'd say something we'd actually try and do in this department. We could, Andy.
Oh, definitely. When I was at Finch's, every time you got stuck, that was a box of beer to the beer fridge for everyone. So yeah, you muck up, and if it's bad, you might have to buy a couple.
Yeah, but no, jeepers. That's do you want to do the quick fire round, Andy? You ready for it?
Yeah. I was just going to say quickly that I have had a couple of questions around that multi-species, and I have thought about it, and also there has been talk about doing it over here as well. Like there are seeds out there where you can do it, but the biggest thing that or limiting factor for us is weed control. Once you sort of get those plants like chicory and plantain, it's very hard to spray for other sort of weeds, and we do get a lot of weeds. So that's one of the biggest factors we probably don't do it.
Yeah, definitely. It's a good point because like you have to leave it burnt off for so long. Like, ideally you'd have to leave it sprayed off for 5-6 weeks to give yourself the best chance on the other side. But it seems to be quite a quick turnaround in some of your reseeding and annuals and stuff like that. So, but listen, I think we're in, like you talked about the emissions, we're in a very similar space in Ireland with we export 90% of our dairy product. The consumer wants that lower emissions product. There's when we go to technical and scientific conferences, sometimes the Dairy NZ argue that they're number one in relation to CO2 emissions per kilo of fat and protein corrected milk, and then maybe at the next one the guy from Chagas, which is the same thing, says that Ireland are. So I'm sure we're neck and neck, but like it is a very similar model of production, but we're constantly be driven towards lower and lower emissions. And that's why I think the work you're doing is brilliant as well.
Yeah, 100% we are. And I don't think we're too far different in trying to achieve the same goals, I guess. Probably it might be a little bit easier for you guys with housing your cows to try and bring your emissions down, though, than us being grass-fed. You can sort of add additives into feed while they're feeding inside the whole time, whereas we can't. So it's probably one of an advantage to you guys, definitely through the winter time. But we're definitely trying to all get to the same goal, though.
Yeah, I know. It's sure. Like it's an exciting time to be in agriculture because, like, the rate of change, even though it's going to be happen very quickly and going to be science driven, is going to significantly change the way that we farm. And if we embrace it, hopefully it'll be for the positive.
Yeah, and hopefully if we do meet these targets, we do get a premium, or our milk's wanted more than it is. But our biggest consumer or customer, I should say, is Nestle, and I think they've brought out a statement that they want to reduce their carbon emissions by about 100%, which is pretty ambitious. Might be 2050 or 2035 or something like that. So it's not that far away, but it's a massive reduction they want, and they want us to come along for the ride, but they're not telling us how to do it. They say figure out your own way, and we'll see you there. So it's going to be interesting.
We'll meet you at the bar. Yeah, that's a tricky one, though, to be fair.
Yeah, exactly.
You may bring a lot of boxes of beer for that one.
Yeah, we've been to mistakes on that one.
Yeah, I'll come along to that one too.
Right, Johnny, you going rapid fire?
Yeah, rapid fire. So Andy, so just bang like that, shoot from the hip, whichever two options, and you pick the one that you think is best. So, first question is Geordie or Bowden Barrett?
Oh, jeebus, Geordie all day long.
Yeah.
Nah, I'd go Bodie actually. Bodie,
There's the reason I picked them is that they actually spent some time in Ireland, and we claim that they got their football ability in Ireland. Their father is a dairy farmer, I think, and he came over to manage a farm in Meath and actually played Gaelic football.
Oh, did he?
In school? Yeah.
He's a bit of a celebrity over here, actually.
Really? Yeah.
Jeebus, I can't think of his name. Smiley Barrett. That's the old man. Yeah, he's an organic dairy farmer down Taranaki.
Class.
Very good.
Second one is going to rattle a few cages as well. Is Fendt or John Deere?
Oh, Fendt all day long.
Simple.
Not a hard one, that one, is it?
Yeah. This next one is a bit of a gimme as well. Jerseys or Holsteins?
Jerseys all day long.
Easy.
They're easier to handle. They're smaller.
Yeah, less fussy.
Hardy.
Clover or chicory?
Oh, jeebus. Clover, I guess.
Okay, that leads me nicely into it. Thanks for that. Red or white clover?
White.
Sam Whitelock or Paul O'Connell?
Semi.
All right, there's no one left with that answer. You were going right up to that, Andrew.
He was a year above me at university, and we used to see him walking around. There was also Don Bird. I don't know if you know who that is, but
yeah,
he played. I think he's a one-test All Black. He was our year at uni, but he was the tallest ever All Black. So him and Sam, they used to walk around, and our uni was only, I think it was 4,500 down at Lincoln, and you'd spot them from anywhere. Like, they were so bloody tall. They'd be a head over anyone else.
He's absolutely massive human being, like, isn't he?
Oh, unreal! Absolutely unreal. Just when you see them in real life, you're like, holy heck.
Yeah, but sometimes it's mad when on the TV you can actually see that they're so big. Like, we have RGV Synham, the South African, playing for Munster now, and he's just huge, like, you know. But I have another one that's less. We're hoping you give us the benefit of the doubt in this one. So Johnny Sexton or Owen Farrell?
Oh, geez, Sexton, isn't he? He's a bloody legend.
Yes, correct.
They probably both are, but I don't know. I haven't really watched a lot of rugby, to be honest, lately. So, but yeah, Sexton,
well, Ireland won the Grand Slam. We won the Grand Slam there, so we're delighted with ourselves. But we're worried about the World Cup now, because the last time we did that, we got absolutely annihilated in the World Cup. So
yeah, you don't want to peak too early.
Yeah,
we'll stay positive.
That's exactly it. And the last one then, Drench or Bolus?
Jeebus, Bolus would be so much easier. Yeah, bolusing would be so much easier.
Hey, Andy, thanks for coming on. We really appreciate all of that. You got all bar one of those questions right. Paul O'Connell was obviously the answer you got wrong there. For our listeners out there, the Once a Day Farmer, get onto YouTube, smash the subscribe button. Also get onto Instagram, the Once a Day Farmer, and you can see what Andy's at down in New Zealand. Really exciting, really interesting, pretty entertaining too. Mind yourselves out there. Hey, no bother, Andy. We really appreciate it. Mind yourselves out there. Farm smart, farm safe. Hey, thanks for listening to the Sod Pod. We hope you enjoyed it. To find out more, head over to www.grasslandagro.ie or check out our social channels: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn and YouTube. That's all for this episode. See you next time.